Haring was an American pop artist whose pop art emerged from the New York City graffiti subculture of the 1980s. He was raised in Pennsylvania, and he developed a love for drawing at a very early age, learning basic cartooning skills from his father and from the other popular culture around him, such as Dr. Seuss and Walt Disney. Haring's popularity grew from his spontaneous drawings in New York City subways. His drawings were chalk outlines of figures, dogs, and other stylized images on a blank black advertising spaces. After gaining public recognition, he created colorful, large-scale murals. He produced more than 50 public works of art between 1982 and 1989. Many were created voluntarily for places like hospitals or daycares or schools. Today, he is most well remembered for his dancing figures. These figures are going to inspire our project today. All right, guys, now that we have just learned a little bit about Keith Haring, we are going to be making Keith Haring names today. So you get to decide if you want to do your first name or your last name. Or you could even do like a nickname. So I think I'm going to do my last name. And the first thing I always like to figure out is what letter is in the middle. So I'm going to do my last name, which is Lumpkin. And I always like to figure out which letter is in the middle. And if you have an odd number of letters in your name, it's pretty easy to figure out. This letter P is in the middle of my name. And I like to figure that out because I always like to start with that letter in the middle because it makes it really easy to know how much space I have for the rest of my letters, okay? So, but some of you might have an even number of letters in your name, and that's true of my first name. So my first name is Victoria. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 letters. So there's not a letter in the middle, but what there is this little space between the T and the O. So what I would do is I would try to find where the middle of my paper is. And then when I start my first letter, which maybe I would start with my O, I would just make sure that I kind of do that O a little bit off center, just a little bit over from the center. But I do still like to start with one of my letters in the middle because, again, it really helps me figure out, okay, then I only have this much space left for the O, or for the RIA, right? And I have about this much space for the VICT. Okay, so just kind of keep that in mind. I'm going to start with the letter P. I have this really fun idea sheet here for you for how to turn Keith Haring's signature people into letters. So you don't have to do exactly how I did it. If you want to make your person make a letter a little bit differently, that's totally fine. But this is here to help you if you need it, okay? So I'm going to start right here with this letter P. And sometimes I even like to kind of, I'm drawing this so lightly so it might even be hard for you to see, but sometimes I like to kind of help myself even more. And this is just really sketchy. It's really hard to see, I know. But I kind of just spaced out 7 spaces, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, just so I kind of know how much room I have for each letter. That just really helps me because I super often, if I don't do that, I'll get to the end of my word and I don't have enough room for the last couple letters. So this just really helps me. If you'd like to do that, you can. I'm going to start with my pencil, so if I make a mistake, I can erase. And I'm just kind of looking at this. And what's great about this is it doesn't have to be perfect. These are just kind of weird shapes anyway. So as long as it looks like the letter, it's not like the people have to look like a realistic shape. I mean, they're all twisted and bent in all kinds of weird ways. So don't worry about if it looks kind of awkward. Okay, so there is a P. Might be hard for you guys to see with my pencil lines, but I'm going to go over it with a Sharpie in just a minute. So now I'm ready with my K. I find myself always wanting to start with their little head, so I kind of know where I'm going from there. And I try to keep them all about the same height and about the same down here. I press very lightly. In case I make a mistake, it's much easier to erase. Okay, so there's my K. Now I have my I here. All right, now for my N. This one looks a little tricky, especially to fit in this kind of little space. So let's see what I can do here. So that one got a little bit squished, but that's okay. All right, now I can start, I think I'm gonna start with the M, because that one definitely takes up the most space. And I wanna make sure I have enough room for that one. All right, and one more for the letter L. Okay, so there are my letters. I know they're kind of hard to see, but I'm going to quickly go over all my pencil lines with a Sharpie real fast. All right, so there are my letters, and then I'm going to go over and erase any of those pencil lines that are still kind of peeking through. All right, so now it's time to add some designs to our background. You can get really creative with these. You can add something really fun like hearts or some other really fun stuff. You can come up with a cool design. I think something I would really like to do is add kind of a little Keith Haring inspired line designs. I'm not going to draw more people because these are already people, but what I was thinking is I can kind of close this space off where my letters are, and then I can do some really fun Keith Haring inspired line designs on the top and the bottom outside of the letters. So I'm just using a straight line or a ruler to draw a straight line, to kind of section that off. So that looks really cool. Now I can draw some little Keith Haring inspired line designs I'm thinking he kind of has these little dogs he draws a lot, so maybe I'll draw one of his little dogs and then maybe some just like fun line designs around. So there's one of his little dogs. I might draw a couple of those, maybe a couple up here and a couple down here. So you can see I'm just really filling up my space here with all kinds of kind of classic Keith Haring designs. Now that I've filled up my space really well, I'm just gonna add more fun little lines around to continue to fill up my space and kind of give it that Keith Haring style. All right, guys, now it's time to add color to these. I am going to use crayons for this. You can use crayons or color pencils or markers to add all kinds of fun designs. All right, guys, there is my finished Keith Haring inspired name. I am so in love with it. I think it's so colorful and fun. I love the included little Keith Haring pictures in the background. I cannot wait to see how yours turn out. Make sure with whatever you're coloring it in with that you're coloring it in super neatly and nicely, not scribbling or anything like that. Filling your spaces completely. You can see I didn't leave any white spaces anywhere, and I'm so happy with it. I hope you guys have just as much fun as I did.